Hey everyone, it's June 22nd, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share with mass murderer George Emil Banks, perpetrator of the 1982 Wilkes Barre shootings, killing 13 victims, including 5 of his own children, in a series of shootings. And that is him right up there. Born in Wilkes Barre in 1942 to a black father and white mother, Banks suffered greatly from discrimination and prejudice growing up in Pennsylvania. On more than one occasion, he witnessed his mother get spit on by racists for being in a relationship with a black man. Guidance counselors recall that he was shy and reserved in school, never getting into much trouble. He joined the Army at a young age and was discharged in 1961 at just 19, after which he was unable to find work. Desperate for money, Banks robbed a bar and shot the owner, who survived, being sentenced to 6 to 15 years in prison. He escaped in 1964 but was quickly caught, and he turned things around enough that he was paroled in 1969 with a sentence commuted 5 years later. Banks married a longtime friend with whom he had 2 daughters, but they divorced in 1976. After his divorce, he dated a string of women, having children with 4 of his girlfriends. He was truly an inspiration to Nick Cannon. Despite his criminal past, Banks began working as a prison guard in 1980, and by 1982 he had a rather complicated home life, living with 3 of his ex-girlfriends and his children under the same roof. Domestic violence was common, and he felt that his neighbors tried to intimidate the women and look down upon them for being white women who were involved with a black man. He told coworkers that he felt a race war was coming and that he wanted the children he had with his girlfriends to be spared the torment and agony of racism. Banks threatened suicide and was put on a leave of absence, being urged to seek psychiatric help. Unfortunately, he didn't, and on September 25, 1982, Banks woke up, put on his old Army fatigues, picked up an AR-15 rifle, and began a rampage that would end with 13 dead. In so doing, he became America's first mass murderer to use an AR-15 style weapon. He started by shooting and killing his 3 ex-girlfriends and 5 children who lived with him, then stepped outside and shot 2 men who were leaving the house across the street. One died as Banks drove to the mobile home where another of his ex-girlfriends lived. He shot and killed the ex-girlfriend, her mother, their son, and her nephew, with the only survivor being a child who hid in a closet. After carjacking a vehicle, Banks drove around, took a nap, and eventually went to his mother's house where he confessed to her what he had done. The police responded to the mobile home park and immediately recognized the connection to the shootings they saw earlier that morning. Banks fled to a vacant rental house where a standoff with police ensued. He eventually surrendered after authorities lied to him, saying that his blood was needed to save the life of his wounded children, who were actually already deceased. They went so far as to have a local radio station report that blood was needed for them to survive, and after 4 hours he turned himself in. At trial, he claimed that the police had killed the victims and he was being framed. The jury didn't buy that story, and Banks was convicted of multiple counts of murder and sentenced to death, but was later deemed to be mentally unfit for the death penalty, and he remains in prison to this day. Behind bars, in fact, at the same prison where Bill Cosby was all too briefly imprisoned. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send them this video so I can find out all about their birthday twin. And to George Emil Banks, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.